Welcome everyone to another episode of the Career Revolution Podcast, where we believe that big ideas start small and it's never too late to get started. We're zooming in to you today from a freezing cold August Cape Town. My name's Licia Dewing and I'm a career strategist and I'm your host. I believe that we can all create careers that we love and we can find our calling. What it takes to get there is a combination of the right mindset and aligned action steps to career strategize ourselves back to our purpose. I'm really excited about our guest today. Jay is a Botswanian who's based in Cape Town, South Africa, and he and I have been having some very interesting conversations. He's going to share about his journey from healthcare to business to strategy and entrepreneurialism in between. But before we dive into that and I bring Jay into the studio, I'd love to remind our listeners or remind you as our listeners to please make sure that you subscribe to the episode wherever you might be listening to it and leave a review and let us know what you enjoyed and what you heard. Stay till the end because Jay is going to be sharing a unique career revolutionary tip from his own experience. Jay has worked in, as I said, expertise. He has expertise as a clinician, academic, and an entrepreneur. He has a background that's been rooted in healthcare, but he's dedicated to his career to understanding and improving auditory health while simultaneously exploring the broader elements of business and education. He's a co-founder of companies in medtech and has developed apps within the sector. Jay holds an MBA and is currently reading an executive diploma in global business at Oxford University. He holds the position of Director of Education at iExperience, where he leads the development and the delivery of education products. Jay's entrepreneurial spirit has driven him to continuously look for new opportunities, be that growth or development, as well as continually stayed focused on the impact and the positive impact that he can have for the communities within which he chooses to serve. Jay's story is one of bravery and focus. And without any further ado, I'm going to bring him on stage. Welcome, Jay.
Hey, Licia. Thank you so much for having me on Career Revolution. It's great to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure. I hope I did justice to your introduction. There's quite a lot to say about where you're at and where you've been for the beginning of the conversation. And I really want to just hand over the mic to you and tell us about starting a medtech company, the screening app, the mobile, all of the stuff that you've done within that health tech space. I think that's going to be the beginning of our conversation, and then we'll evolve to other things.
Sure, no problem. I think it's a good point to start as well. Well, I'm an audiologist by profession, and I did a master's in addition to my undergrad, and I'm a specialist in dizziness and balance because it lives as part of the auditory system. But this idea around the medtech company evolved out of my MBA class, and I got together with two of my classmates, a software developer and another wonderful gentleman who came from the sports science industry, and we came together as a team, and we initially did a course or a module around innovation and entrepreneurship. And I've always had this idea of there isn't a cost-effective solution that's local, that is actually designed for our context. And all the devices that are available to us as clinicians are always so expensive. Is there a possibility that we can really develop something that is made in South Africa, made in Africa for our context? And the answer was yes. There was potential in my idea. So out of that module, we developed a business plan, and then we applied to the MTN Solution Space Business Incubator as one of the companies they take on. And we got accepted. We got enrolled into that course, and we came out first in that entire business incubation cohort. We won the MTN prize for the best business and innovation. And that's when everything began. We took it from an idea into a certified medical 2 device by SAPRA. And it was amazing journey. I learned so much. I learned so much about tech and development, but merging it with the very regulated medical industry, bridging those gaps. Like you have a
Mm,
solution, but it has to conform to the medical regulation, and that
mm,
posed a whole unique challenge. But the way we overcame it through iteration and teamwork and collaboration and thinking outside of the box, that was quite challenging, but so rewarding in the end. And now the application is being used by speech therapists and audiologists to test children's hearing at school going level up to adults as well. And what's nice about it is that it provides a screening tool and a diagnostic tool, which is amazing. I don't think when we started the business, no device had both functionalities. And we made it so cost effective that it costs about 10 Rand a test, which is unreal in terms of a cost to benefit ratio.
absolutely. I mean, it
Yeah.
makes it, the mother of all invention is necessity. And with your audiological background, necessity was you need something that was an easy disseminated tool for people with difficulties or identify hearing difficulties, more about what it actually does.
Yes. So it detects the ability or hearing ability of a patient or a child, because
Mm,
hearing loss, the sooner it's detected, the better the outcome. If you leave it for too long, the outcome and the impact on one's life is tremendous. People who have a hearing loss in about 80% of Africa don't even have access to an audiologist. So people go through life just thinking that this is an affliction they have and there's nothing they can do about it. And that's so sad because there is so much technology and rehabilitation services available elsewhere. But in Africa, we just don't have access, or we don't have equitable access to such
mm,
services. So helping people or identify hearing loss so early on changes people's lives. Children get to hear the world as it should be heard. They get to go to school. They get to participate in an equal manner in class. And later on, it has impact on the ability to work and earn a living. So hearing loss, it's a disability that is not seen, and it its its awareness is quite low. As a lot of people don't know that somebody has a disability just because they don't see it, and there's a lot of stigma around it as well. So breaking that stigma, creating a lot of awareness, and creating access to equitable health, I think is our mission, and that's the driving force behind it.
wonderful. And I would love for you to speak to the interest and the exposure that you gained from the further studies. I mean, you were a practicing audiologist. You chose to study further, which gave you this broader exposure, as you said, was as a result of the MBA cohort that the connection synapsed and you developed that app. And I think that's an interesting thing because you describe yourself as a lifelong learner and you potentially are going to be continuing. I mean, you now are in education. We'll get to talking about that. But you might have just been the audiologist who said, we need this. You didn't do anything about it. You just highlighted the problem and you carried on in your career as audiology. But you only created the app with the MBA because that's something that shifted you into the role. Talk to us about that. It's fascinating that audiologists chose to play.
Yes, absolutely. So I think it's a it's a consequence of being a healthcare practitioner. In healthcare, you like live in this kind of very specialized world, and it's very difficult to see beyond it and understand the world that makes up anything that is not healthcare. Finance and business, and it's another world. And I reached a point in my career where I was like, I need something more challenging. And my entrepreneurial kind of interests, I felt I was limited, and I didn't have the knowledge, or I didn't have the skill set to take them further, or to find them where they needed to be, or how to go about it. So that was the inspiration for the MBA, to like, I need a new skill set. I need to understand how the world works. I need to figure out, how do I take an idea into something that's practical and viable. And that MBA journey was absolutely transformative. It opened my eyes to kind of peeking behind the curtain as to, what are the mechanics of the world. And if anybody's ever thinking of doing MBA, I would say absolutely, please go for it. It'll change your life, but please do it for the right reasons, because it's not a walk in the park. It's quite challenging, but that challenge, as with anything in life, you go through a challenging time, but you grow immensely. And for me, it was growing as a leader, as an academic, as a person who understood business and entrepreneurship really well. And that's been transformative. It's opened so many doors for me, uh, to go from healthcare into my current job, which is education. Uh, I have been in academia for a very long time, and that's added even more value to my current position. So, with the MBA, understanding entrepreneurship, using those skills to start a business, leading my team now, and servicing my role at iExperience, I then realized that I've worked for a global company, but I still need to learn a little bit more about the global landscape. And that
Mm.
drove me to the next stage, uh, to Oxford. And that has been a childhood dream that has now come to fruition, which I'm very grateful for. Yeah.
So you've taken us to the Oxford, exciting. And I've got so many questions about that, because I think there are many South Africans, Africans who have this excitement and desire and dreams. So we're definitely going to understand more of those nuances. Can I just take you back to the transition, the career evolution from practicing, medical practitioner, healthcare practitioner, into startup, but working within an environment within iExperience. How did you find that evolution, that transition? What advice, what info can you share around that? Because it's quite a big pivot. I think anybody
Yeah,
who's qualified with practice would
absolutely.
acknowledge that. And I take my hat off to you for having seemingly transitioned across it with such ease.
It's such a good question, and it always looks easy when it's done, but when you're in the journey, it's so challenging. But I was at a point, and I was at a very unhappy point. I reached a point, in my career where I was kind of stagnating. I
Mm,
couldn't see a way out, or a way ahead. And
mm,
partly that was because I'm not South African. I'm
mm,
originally from Kenya, and
mm,
I grew up in Botswana, so I'm a Botswana
mm,
citizen. And having kind of immigration issues was a very limiting factor. And
mm,
that's a challenge you cannot easily, kind of navigate. It's that
mm,
you don't have any control. So that was one of the reasons, but also not having hope, or not being able to see beyond what the future holds, or how you're going to grow, which is kind of it's deep within me to continuously grow and evolve and learn. And
mm,
I didn't have that anymore. And I was in a very dark place, but I took a brave step, and I believe that I'm unhappy, but if I step out of my step out of this unhappiness and be happy and
mm,
believe in the universe that, good things will come, then I have nothing to lose. And I did. I resigned. I had no prospects of a job,
no
but
plan, no strategy.
no, nothing, nothing, nothing. But I believed that something good was going to come. And lo and behold, I didn't have a month where I didn't have an income. I got offered a project that I could do as a consultant. I did that, and then the next month I was offered a position, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is insane! Like, I can't believe this is happening." Because when I finished my MBA, that's when the pandemic hit. So everything
Mm.
was, excuse
Lockdown.
me,
Mm.
yeah, standstill for 2 years. So it was like from going to no prospects, and then all of a sudden taking that big leap and just believing in yourself and believing in the universe and believing that there's greater things beyond this
Mm.
just opened up the doors to such great opportunities.
Mm.
And that's what allowed me to shift careers so drastically from
Mm.
healthcare into like a corporate academic, environment. And then
Mm.
3 months into my new job, I got appointed to the head of my department, which is amazing. And I can't believe that all of that happened, to be honest. It was like just it all fell into place, and I'm so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful that I was brave enough to take that step and say, I need to leave this, and for those
Mm.
people who are in the same place where you don't like your job, you're unhappy, believe in yourself and take that
Mm.
step, because just in that action shows the universe that you're ready for more and wonderful things.
Mm. Such a powerful point to be heard and to hear again and to hear it through your particular experience. You kind of that taking a brave step ignites huge opportunities that you never
Yes.
imagined would be there. Jay, tell us about Oxford. Tell us about firstly why was this a childhood dream? Well, I mean, I think we can many of us know why, but specifically for you as a lifelong
Yeah,
long learner, a big childhood dream, and you're on a wave of taking big steps, and here you're stepping
yeah,
into the land of academia in Oxford, United Kingdom. Talk to us about that.
yeah. Yeah, it's so education is a very valued kind of part of life in my family. And my parents didn't have the greatest opportunities in terms of education, but they made
Mm.
my brother and I have the kind of the best education we could have had in the context that we're in. And I'm going to admit I'm a big nerd and I love learning. So when it came to when it came to deciding where to go, I've always had this thing that if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability and to the grandest scale. Think big or go home. And I was like, Oxford is like kind of ranked the highest university. So when I was looking at a university after high school, I was like, I would love to go to Oxford. Like that was a dream. But I couldn't afford it. My parents couldn't afford it. So I decided, okay, well, let's do with the best that we can, and I went to UCT. But now that I've done so much and I've got other degrees, and I was like, maybe now's the time. And a year before, I was in London with my wife, and we're like, let's go to see Oxford. Let's just go see what it's about. It seems really cool. So we did a day trip, and we toured Oxford, and it was such a magical experience because it's so old and ancient, and she's a big Harry Potter fan. So she was looking at it from a whole different perspective, and I was like looking at it from another perspective. But we had this shared experience that it's this amazing place, and you can feel kind of the history when
The
you walk
hallowed
around it.
spaces. Mm.
Yes,
Mm.
exactly. Um, and I was like, you know what? When we're leaving, I was like, one day I'm going to be here. And I kind of set that
Mm.
intention. And then when we came back, um, I started looking at Oxford and I was like, I want to study something. I wonder what I could study. And this program at Oxford appeared. And I was like, hey, what do I have to lose at this stage? I've got the degrees. I'm a professional. Let's apply. And I applied. I got invited for an interview. And then I got accepted. And the cherry on top of all of that was that I got awarded a Dean scholarship, one of two
Wow.
Dean scholarships. So I was like, oh my God, this is even better than I ever imagined. Um, And to be honest, like it still gives me goosebumps because it just doesn't feel real. But
Mm,
that was how it began. And just being part of Oxford now and being alumni and belonging to a college is Oxford is truly a magical place, but it
mm,
is an immensely like the reason why people hold it in high esteem in terms of academia and research and education, it's very difficult to put into words, but you have to experience it to understand why it's
mm,
regarded so highly. The lecturers, the intention, the way they convey information and the effort to which they go so that you have the best experience and the quality
mm,
experience from the type of content that you receive to the people they bring in as guest lecturers to the
mm,
facilities that you have, the networks you have, your classmates are selectively or intentionally picked to elevate
mm,
the your experience. And every person who's in that class is an exceptional human being in their own right. And they come from
mm,
such diverse backgrounds and cultures and professions. So all in all, it is a tremendous experience, and I'm so grateful to be part of it, to be called an Oxonian, and to be part
yeah.
of the alumni network. But the one thing I'd say is that through the course, what you learn is that you can instantly implement when you get back to work, and that
Mm.
is being so transformative in my role as director of education at iExperience.
Mm. And how did they view you as an African with your medtech company and app that you developed? I mean, it's no surprise to me that you were awarded one of the two Dean scholarships because they handpicked you for their cohort. But tell us what Oxford saw. What did they see through your, through their eyes of your experience?
Yeah, they asked us to write about two or three essays around our motivation to be part of the class, in addition to the
Mm,
interview. But what I would suspect in terms of what they saw is that it's a person who is authentic, first and foremost, because all my classmates are authentic. There's not one person I would say that is inauthentic. And they're
mm,
just nice people, and they just want to do good in whichever
mm,
facet and form they're in, but they're also very intellectual. They're smart,
mm,
and they don't they're open to new ideas, but also challenging, thoughts, ideas, concepts, to
mm,
interrogate and learn more, but also to add value. And having a
mm,
broad range of skills, but not only having skills, but demonstrating that you've done something about it, you've actioned your skill set, you've taken the initiative. I think that's the kind of people that they want in the institution as leaders,
mm,
because those are the kind of the leaders that will drive the next change in the world, right?
mm,
And taking people along with them, but having that
mm.
mindset of constantly learning, constantly evaluating, collaborating, and being authentic in doing so. I think that
Mhm.
is what they value the most. And obviously, academic rigor is a given, so you do have to have some credentials behind your name to be part of the course. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jay, I know that you are, you're using your presence on platforms like LinkedIn to start talking about this fascinating intersection that you have of health tech, health, medtech entrepreneur, business owner, and education. Um, how can we support you? You've got a newsletter. What else is coming up that we can support you with?
Well, before I get into that, I want to say that kind of journey that has begun is all thanks to you. So thank you, Licia, for all the support and guidance on that. But yes, it's like I saw that, or through working with you is also we identified that I have this kind of unique view of leadership. I mean, healthcare, academia, and entrepreneurship or business.
Mm,
And
mm,
pulling all three, there's so much insight, knowledge, content that I would love to share
Mhm.
with people. So I'm trying to develop a presence on LinkedIn, sharing my ideas, thoughts around my expertise from the different domains that I come from. I have a
Mhm.
newsletter that comes out every month around certain topics around leadership, healthcare, education, and business. And I am soon going to be launching a podcast which is named Against the Grain, which I believe is suitable to my journey, but also kind of
Mm.
my personality, always doing things differently, thinking outside the box. Um, and that is going to be launching soon. I'm in the process of developing some content and also creating a platform for people to connect and learn from their stories. Like you hear lots of podcasts and they have all these celebrities on them, but they're not accessible, you know? And I feel
Mm.
that if we can just look at our networks, our communities, people around us, share their stories, because there's such amazing, rich stories around us. And if we can bring that to
Mm.
light, we can also connect people together. And who knows what can
Mm.
happen? You might be able to learn something from someone or be able to connect with someone that will, transform something in a way that you never imagined. So again, I go back to like in everything I do, I try to have some form of positive impact. Whilst if I
Mm.
can learn, that's even great. And I'm just curious, and so I'm trying out the podcast journey to see what does it entail and what are the mechanics of it.
Wonderful. Well, don't stop following your curiosity because look how far it's got you. And whether it's the corridors of Harvard that you yourself walked in and said, I'm going to be here one day, or whether it's the next big thing that you're going to start walking through, Jay, I, for one, am certainly excited to, honored to be in your community and to watch how far you soar and where you go because it comes from that place where there's two big themes for me when I consider the future of where you ought to go, and the one is you're going to do it, set your heart on something big enough, and then you'll achieve it, you'll go towards it. And I mean that could be a platitude, but you're a walking talking example of that dream for something bigger, and you're going to be able to manifest it. You refer to the universe, you talk about the gratitude that you had and the hard work that it took to get to where you are. And then the other element is this impact, the positive impact. You want to take people along for the journey, the communities that you impact. And already hearing about the intricacies of the app that you created with your colleagues from the MBA makes me think of how many people throughout the continent, our beloved home continent of Africa, are benefiting from that. Thank goodness you pushed yourself, you resigned from your audiology role. Thank goodness you went into what am I going to do for a month? I've got no money. And then you decided to sort of step up into the next thing through your MBA. And I know there's going to be some bigger thank goodnesses to come as we follow you and we see where you go. So well done for creating a newsletter and for putting yourself out on LinkedIn. That's in itself is not always easy. It seems like, well, it's just saying something, but it takes consistency and time and effort. So thank you for that. I'm definitely going to share links to all our listeners, wherever they're listening from. We'll have the link to the newsletter to subscribe to. And we're going to stay close to hear about the podcast. I love the title, Going Against the Grain. I think that's really great. And Jay, just to wrap up, you've shared so many revolutionary golden nuggets in this conversation, but I wanted to specifically ask you, what would your career revolution specific tip be to somebody who's listening right now?
I would say believe in yourself, keep going, keep positive, and know when to say no. Saying no is very powerful. So
Mm.
if you have, if you know yourself and you know what you want, there's nothing stopping you from going to get it and achieving it. But don't let other things get in the way and get distracted. So know when to say no. Um, yeah, and just go against the grain. It's okay.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Go against the grain. Jay, stick close to the continent of Africa. Do your wild exploration and follow your curiosity wherever in the globe it might take you. But I know that the communities that you are most focused on impacting are the ones that are closest to home. And that gives me a great sense of excitement. The future certainly looks bright if you're going to be following your curiosity in it. So thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for being here on the Career Revolution podcast. We'll be seeing you on your podcast soon. And in the meanwhile, following your journey, your story, and your newsletter on LinkedIn. So Jay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolute pleasure.